Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Danielle Duncan-Bernstein. I'm the Executive Director of Special Education here in Redondo. We're very pleased and very fortunate to have one of our board members, Mr. Byung Cho here, who's very supportive of us and our endeavors, and so we're very thankful to have him. I also have another one of our program specialist administrators who came to support as well, Dr. Jessica Gabriel. So just to talk briefly about how we ended up here tonight. Diana has been doing some work with our department in supporting our special education staff and being more fluent with technology resources that we have, as we know that we're in a very technologically oriented world and our students are very tech savvy. Some more so than we would like them to be. And so how do we, one, arm our parents, equip our parents with some of the same tools that our students are using to help them as students at home. And also with our Special Education Parent Advisory Council, of which we have 2 members here who support Lincoln. In conversations with our Parent Advisory Council, one of the needs that came up was a need for parents to, again, receive information on tools that are available to help students at home. So that's kind of how we ended up here tonight. We're very happy that you came to join us. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Diana to introduce herself and our topic today. If you haven't signed in, please do so before you leave. Hopefully I see everybody has a flyer. And just for housekeeping, if you need to use the restroom, it's around the corner and there's one there. Thank you, Diana.
Hi everybody, I'm Diana Naskovska. Nice to meet everyone. And even though we're a small, intimate group, we're being recorded today for the greater good. So who knows where this video is going to end up? I mean, Redondo Beach parents.
Can I say thank you, because I was trying my hardest to get my husband here, and my other daughter is like, just record it. I'm like, I can't record.
So really quickly then, I'm going to give a shout out to RUTV for being here to support us so that we can post this for other people who cannot be.
Awesome.
Just a little bit about me. I got my start as a special ed teacher, SDC, RSB. I've done elementary, middle, I've done high school. I happen to love middle school. It's just special age.
Oh,
it's
God.
so much fun. It is ridiculously fun, and one thing we loved about it, it's not that serious. You know, you can kind of not take the world serious yet, right? They're getting bigger, they're making friends. Then you get to high school and you have to worry about credits, and it's like, oh my goodness. So I gradually got into the world of assistive technology from my work at the middle school primarily. At the time, the technology we had was like not even, I mean, it's unimaginable by today's standard. Does anyone know when the iPad was invented? Who knows without looking in the room?
iPad 2003, 4?
It feels like we've had it. It feels like we've had it
I
a long
didn't even
time.
have a smartphone until 2012.
2010.
Is that right?
The iPad, January 2010, iPad 1. The iPhone did come out like a year or 2 before that, but when the iPad came, you know guys what happened? It changed the world. And the fact that we've only had the iPad 14 years and technology, it feels like we haven't been without. Is that wild? Like, it's just so incredibly wild. But the world has changed, right? And then when the pandemic happened, we jumped forward again. We gave it, right? Those of you who are here are obviously active parents. What was the debate before? Are we gonna get all the kids devices? The pandemic happened and we had no choice. Everybody had a device and the world changed again. We had teachers and parents that had no idea what Google Classroom was. Suddenly everybody's like Zoom in, jumping on Google Classroom, submitting assignments, and things changed a whole lot. It was pretty incredible. So now I work full-time as an assistive technology specialist, and I kind of come in just for I do assessments for very complicated students. You know, unfortunately, I don't want to say it too much, but the kids who get sick later, kids who get cancer, kids who have car accidents, kids with degenerative muscular disorders, whose profile really changes over time. Now, because there's so much technology, I do a lot of training, like Danielle said, for districts, because there's so much out there, kind of our run-of-the-mill kids, like kids with autism, kids with learning disabilities, kids with ADHD, even kids with behavior problems. There's a lot of built-in technology, and I'm going to share some of that today that's available for everybody. Those are my kids when they were 3. They're turning 10 this month. I have twins. Love them. So, even though I have 5 agenda items, we got to think about technology is like fast. Everything we do now is super fast. I could probably have put 20 agenda items and we could have still covered it. I always wonder how much information can I share, because there's so much I want to share. But it's the TikTok generation, right? It's the age of the digital native, right? So if you've had kids in the last 14 years, right, they know what an iPad is, right? Prior to that, we were doing pretty good. We had the old computers, the old phones, and all of that. But the digital native is really different from those of us who were not born with iPhones and iPads, because they are getting things at a much faster rate than the previous generation. So we got to keep that in mind. It's pretty incredible. I could show a kid in like 30 seconds how to use something, and they can become proficient with it and then take it to the next level. Some of the tools I'm going to show you today, I actually found out about first from students. Some of my kids that I work with are really, really bright, and some of the features here I didn't know about ahead of time, but some of the kids had discovered when they first got their Google Chromebooks. Anybody bring their kids a Google Chromebook? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. So I'm on a Chromebook, and the first thing you know on the Chromebook, it looks different from a standard computer, and it takes like, for me, I'm like, why is there no caps lock? There's so many things that are different on a keyboard than a regular computer. But the kids have had these now since 2020, right? They're like getting to know them really well. And Chromebooks are now just as competitive as iPads. There was a time when the iPads were kind of top of the line, especially when the iPad Pro came out. It was like, wow, look at all the things we can do on an iPad. But we got to remember, Google is making the Chromebooks, and they decided to have a proprietary piece of hardware to go with all their software. It's the top of the line product right now in terms of educational resources, because the kids can get on there and get everything they need, plus more. I'm going to show you some of the accessibility features that are available on Chromebooks. Now, keep in mind, these are all things that are only available on the Chromebook. That's made it a little bit tricky for educators and parents, the fact that there's different stuff happening on the Chromebook versus our computers. So you can't highlight a mouse cursor on your Mac or your PC or a different Chromebook. You can't highlight the text caret, which I'll show you what that means. The on-screen keyboard on some level exists. We know iPads, tablets have on-screen keyboards, but most computers don't. Voice typing is now everywhere, right? We got Alexa, we've got Siri, we've got Google Assistant, Amazon. Oh, I said it already. During the pandemic, there was a dad, I was working with their student, who said, oh, I wish there was an Alexa in his classroom. And I'm like thinking, I use Alexa to go shopping and to play music. What does this kid need an Alexa in the classroom for? He said during the pandemic, his kid would constantly ask Alexa how to spell words. He was a little 3rd grader. How do you spell dinosaur? How do you spell Tyrannosaurus Rex? And I was like, that sounds like a super cool idea. You're like just shouting out like, oh, how do you spell this? How do you spell this? Instead of asking your mom and dad or your teacher. But voice typing, we know, it's everywhere, right? Text to speech. This is a feature that is also being integrated in a lot of software. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the Chromebook. And then appearance settings. The cool thing on appearance settings is kids that like have visual impairments or need things larger or more contrast, we've got all the features built in and we can adjust it. I've even worked with the student with epilepsy, because there's a tiny flicker. I don't know if you know, but there's a flicker on screens that people with severe epilepsy can detect. We could reduce all of that and make the computer experience more comfortable for students. So let's take
Is
a,
that flicker on like most computers or just more the?
it's on every device with a
Really?
screen, TVs, any screen. And there's a rate, if you go to the National Association of Epilepsy, you can find out what they
Yeah,
give you
no,
a
I was just wondering if it
suggested
was
rate.
beyond just
Yeah,
that. Okay,
it's
wow.
very interesting.
So, just to pause really quick, Diana, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We do have another guest who is here to support us, and that's Christian, who's from IT.
Yes.
And so
Oh,
if you
perfect.
didn't happen to bring a Chromebook with you and you want to practice on one, we have those available
Ooh.
as well.
Anybody want to try it out?
I just want to interject, sorry.
So I'm gonna actually hide that screen for a second, but that sounds great. Okay, I'm gonna hide that too. Okay, I'm gonna hide that too. In the beginning, when the Chromebooks came out, everybody was worried. It's such a tiny screen. It was hard. They had to do Zoom on it. They had to do their work on it. But if you think about it now, if every kid that I meet is like, they want to do all their work on a tiny iPhone. So now I don't worry about screen size like I used to. I used to be very sympathetic, but our kids are doing so much on an iPhone. So unless they have visual impairments, the screen's quite okay. I have a tendency to talk fast. I will 1000% try to slow down, but if you need me to interrupt me, ask a question, I appreciate all of that. So, get rid of that. To get to the accessibility features, you're going to click on the time in the corner. So go right down to the time, and you're going to get this little screen. Most computers have been set up already. I'm going to just sit for this part. Most computers have already been set up with the accessibility shortcut, and it has some of the top accessibility features available. Select to speak is one that I'm going to show you. Dictation is one that I like a lot. The on-screen keyboard, I'm going to come back to it in just a minute. And the large mouse cursor, you can enlarge the mouse cursor. Who here has elementary age children? Okay, high schoolers and middle school? Anything else? Preschool? Okay, preschool can kind of fit under elementary. For the young ones, kids with ADHD, I love large mouse cursors. I also really love the highlighted mouse cursor. So what's cool about this is you can see the mouse as it's traveling. It's got a circle around it, but it goes away, which is really neat because we don't want that circle. Let me clear these so they don't bother me. Okay, and then highlighted object with keyboard focus. We'll come back to that in a bit. But there's some standard accessibility features that are ready to go for us. We click them, they become available. The cool thing is there's even more, and your school district has made more of them available. If you click that gear, you will actually find out what other features are available. Don't worry if you get in there and you activate something. Your school district has a really tight control over these areas. So there isn't much damage we can do in the area of text-to-speech. We can turn it on, we can turn it off. So I'm going to go over to text-to-speech. It is set on, it has different voices that you can preview. If your child doesn't like the voice that's already there, it's got some customizations you can do. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. But you can go into more detail about many accessibility features. What's cool is there's a search bar at the top, and let's say you're like, oh gosh, I just forgot. What did that lady say? There was a text reader somewhere on there. If you start typing, it'll quickly take you to where you need to go. Same with dictation. How do I activate the dictation? So, you know, iPhones, tablets have built-in voice typing, but on the Chromebooks, you have to activate it because it's not available everywhere. The mouse cursor, if we want to change the mouse color. For me, anytime I can customize the experience for a student, I will. Because if they're happy with their computer, which they look at quite a bit in some of their classes, then they're most likely to just be happier in general. If a kid wants a green cursor, what's the big deal, right? We can give them a green cursor if that's their favorite color. And if they decide, hey, that's not for me, they can just go back and change it to whatever color they like. But anytime the students have a buy-in or a say in their experience, anything to make them more comfortable, they have a better experience overall. Okay, let me show you what, I'm not going to show you all the accessibility features. I wanted to show you the top ones. And I want you to know that you can get, if you ever lose your spot, just go back to the time in the corner, either click on the gear or go to the accessibility shortcut. I believe on your student's computer, the accessibility shortcut exists. Did you guys find it? Great. If you're on your kid's computer, you can change their mouse cursor and they'll be surprised tomorrow. They'll be like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Give you something to talk about at
I'm
dinner.
surprised that it's not like that already. To me, that's just odd, with my son.
And like I said before, the hard part is the teachers aren't using Chromebooks. We've given all the teachers
He has a lot of
fancier
support.
laptops,
He should.
and they don't know. For a lot of them, didn't know. Like kids can go in and customize accessibility features, activate the text to speech, activate the on-screen keyboard and the dictation. So we're trying to spread that knowledge among staff here in Redondo Beach. And also the parents is a great way to spread that knowledge because like I said, the kids learn from each other. It's pretty incredible. During the pandemic, what was the one thing they all learned from each other? Do you guys remember? They all came with screensavers. The districts hadn't locked down the screensaver and the background, and they all learned to change their background right away. And they learned it from each other. We didn't teach them how to do that. The kids are always figuring things out. Let me show you what the built-in text-to-speech looks like. So I'm just on any website here, anything on the screen. I'm going to come down at the bottom. You see it says select to speak. I know you guys are a little far, but select to speak. It's active, but I have to still press it to use it. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go learn about Minecraft.
Minecraft is a 2011 sandbox game developed by Mojang Studios and originally released in 2009. The game was created by Marcus Notch Pearson in the Java programming language.
Very cool. 2011. There's another one. Life Before Minecraft. Does that even exist? Built-in free text reader. Even Apple wasn't giving us free text reader for many years. They actually do now. If you're an iPhone or iPad user, there's an accessibility feature called Spoken Content that does the same thing. What's cool about this text reader, any tab, any program I go to, I can use that to read. So if I have a student who's not reading very well but is interested in higher content, if he's having a hard time accessing some digital assignment, this can give them instant access to that. Pretty exciting for students to just have that available. Now, if you're somebody who goes on the internet a lot, you've noticed that that play button is on a lot of websites. The goal is that all websites are going to be accessible over the next couple years. That date keeps changing, but you're going to see like an accessibility button in the corner. People with visual impairments can get their accessibility features. People with who are deaf or hard of hearing, and people who have learning disabilities and just need the content read to them. So there's lots more coming. This is just kind of almost a preview of the accessibility that Google has given us for free for our students. Now, dictation, if you already, you know that Google already gives us free voice typing, right? We've got the little microphone there. But the reason dictation is important is because there's some websites that your students go to or programs that don't have voice typing. So the cool thing here is when you click on dictation, it will give it to you in any text box. So I like to do it for my students. I actually try out all these accessibility features with my own kids. They were kindergartners during the pandemic, so all their basic foundation skills are just all over the place. So I have activated dictation and select to speak for them, just to get them used to, they struggle in reading and writing overall. But those features are available everywhere. So if you go somewhere where it's not available, okay? So select to speak and dictation. The other cool one I want to show you is the on-screen keyboard. So I'm going to go back and activate it. So some kids, they're in school, they don't want to, they don't want to talk, right? We're like, just speak it, just say the sentence, just dictate it. Well, that doesn't feel like authentic to some kids, and they want to type it, right? But then they have spelling challenges. So we all text, right? We get our little auto spell, auto correct. What's cool is the Google Chromebook has a built-in on-screen keyboard. Now, some sites have touch screens. I happen to be using a touchscreen Chromebook. Some sites don't. So you could use this with or without a touch screen. It's kind of nice if it's a touch screen because our kids like using it. But what, oops, let me get the text box active. Okay, here we go. So I just want to say I like. So it gives me text, it gives me spelling support that you would get on an iPad or an iPhone without it. I like to go to, it gives me some good predictions too. I like to go to the park. I might have to give it a few
What
more
is this called again,
suggestions.
sorry?
So this is the on-screen keyboard. So you get you get word prediction and you get spelling support. So this is great for all ages. Kids at the high school who have a hard time spelling, kids who are young have a hard time spelling. They really like that word prediction. And we're seeing it more and more in a lot of places. Not just texting, but email. Yes.
So is there a way to get that, because my kid's proficient in typing, which is great. So he's not gonna wanna do that, but he does need the word prediction and he needs that kind of assistance, so is there, is there a way to do it without having an on-screen keyboard?
You could squish it.
There's co-writer in.
So you could you actually could squish the keyboard.
Well, like in Google Docs though, or in the Google Suite, which is what they use.
There's co-writer with, if I can get that.
For kids with IEPs, we do have some advanced software. But it kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm
The
saying.
more advanced software has.
But do you have to type on the screen?
No, you can use your keyboard.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's why I'm going.
You
I'm
don't.
going.
Yes.
Okay.
You could
But if you
use.
just have to have it open, or how does it, that's what I'm not quite following either. Like
So
how-
you have to. You
activate
do
it,
have
I
to
guess.
use the mouse to make your selection.
So you need a separate mouse, or you mean this?
The little
Okay,
touchpad.
the
The little
touchpad.
touchpad.
Wait, so how do you get that? I'm sorry, how do you get that?
Yeah,
over
like,
there?
I need the same thing.
Yes. So if you go back to your accessibility feature, let me get rid of it for a second. Oh, I'm in. Sorry, I'm over in.
Yeah, I don't see.
Okay, here we go. If you go back to accessibility, it's the on-screen keyboard. So right over here. And when you activate it, it will create a little keyboard down at the bottom.
Keyboard and texting.
Yeah, I don't see on.
Is it under advanced?
It could be. Is it not one of the choices?
IT?
So
Is
let's
it
go
IT?
to.
Can you help us find it on the Chromebooks? I'm not seeing it.
You might have to go to the gear. So let's get rid of that.
Where do you find the on-screen keyboard?
But that's okay because it's something we could. So if you go to the little gear and you search for it, it might just be hidden away.
Yeah, you know what it was the first thing, I just didn't know what it was, so I just like, it's not checked off.
Yours might be in different order, cause I think the order of
Would you
accessibility
need it on
features
all the
change.
time? Is that what I'm, if I put that over, it's gonna be on all the time? But does that maybe bug him? I don't wanna.
You can hide it. So he just clicks it to activate it, and then he clicks it to.
Oh, okay, I see it now, it's now at the bottom. I see it's like, it's, okay.
Yep.
It's not.
And then you can enlarge it, which
So you
is
have to know
really
how to use it, I
cool.
guess.
Or, and it's gonna work with any screen that you've got. So it will work with typing, and it will work with touching the screen. So I would introduce, it does have some additional features, obviously the emojis. And it has,
It again, cause now it's up.
yeah.
How do I get rid of it?
So then to get rid of it, you just click on it down below.
Oh, click on the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that should get rid of it.
This is just on this. It hides it.
And I'm gonna turn mine
It's
off.
not, mine's not going.
Is it not going away?
I'll just turn it off and just look into it more, which I'll never do, but.
Show your kiddo, cause trust me,
Well,
he's either
yeah.
tried it out or he's gonna see if it's
He
beneficial to
needs
him.
someone to help him.
Okay, got
We
it.
need Redondo Union or Redondo Beach to help.
Okay,
I mean, I'm happy to like figure it out. He's not gonna be able to figure it out.
it used to be that it would always show up, but it looks like it's showing up mainly for tech, when you're on the text field. So, to go
Or
back,
Maybe I can just.
and I'm happy to hang out too and show you
It may just be my
guys.
computer, now I think it's gone.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I pushed on something, yeah, okay, so. I just, sure. That's
Sorry.
interesting.
There we go.
So the word prediction is supposedly comes up above it, is that,
Yes, yes.
'Cause so
If you
far-
think about,
so far I'm a 0.
Yeah, mine's not working.
I mean, my spelling is pretty good, I'm like, you know, because I'm a grown up. But,
The prediction.
no,
It
it's
does-
not predicting squat.
everything is gonna take practice,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like these are, even though they're quick to start and get going, like to establish comfort level, it just takes some practice. So I don't want anyone to, I want you guys to just be patient with yourselves with everything that's gonna get introduced today, because there's a lot of information I'm gonna try to share. And then try it out. What I've learned with students is that you have to show them something and then ask them to try it for a little bit.
Right, get them started.
And then they decide they hate it. They all decide they hate everything. So you take it away, and I'm gonna show you one font change. So you take it away and you're like, that's fine, we'll turn it off. And they're the ones that will ask for it back.
Yeah,
But you
that's
have to
right.
at least give them some exposure. Like, you're gonna use this for the next 5 days, I don't care. That's like the mandate. So we do have to, the older they are, the more resistant they are to change. Unless their best friend who's sitting next to them is using it, they're like, this is not for me, okay? So, but those are 3 I use a lot: the dictation, the select to speak, and the on-screen keyboard that I like. Okay, but like I said, the websites are bringing more and more accessibility to us. Okay, do you guys feel pretty good about how to get to accessibility features on a Chromebook? Yes. Like I said, there's more to explore, like the mouse cursor, the highlighted mouse cursor, but we're not going to go into too many today because I just want you to get experience with some of it. Okay. I do want to show you. I'm going to actually switch computers now because I happen to have some files saved differently on my Mac. So I'm going to close that for a second. I like mouse. You can still connect a mouse to a Chromebook. So I want to show you some websites that are really great. When we think about our kids and all the multisensory, multimedia content, we can't just give them paper pencils anymore, right? And I think that teachers are really adapting to that, and there's really trying to incorporate multimedia into the environment. Although, since the pandemic, we've seen two things. We've seen some teachers say, I don't want to use computers because we did it too much. And then we have the people that want to use computers all the time, maybe even excessively. So I think what's important is that we find some balance for that. I think that even if a kid has a hard time handwriting, some physical fine motor work is always going to be beneficial. It doesn't have to all be typing. Typing is the future, hands down. For our high schoolers, for our college students, typing is going to be a big part of their life, for their careers going forward. So don't worry if they're not great typists when they're in elementary school, because they're going to be doing a lot of typing as they get older, okay? YouTube, do we all have love-hate relationships with YouTube? I know I do. I'm like, God, why is it so addictive? Why does my kid want to do it all the time? But there's some amazing things on YouTube, especially for our kids who are having difficulty learning standard ways, right? Multiplication facts, oh my gosh. My son, I have tried so many methods on those darn multiplication. That's somebody's hand hiding it. Any Bruno Mars fans? We're all Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Some kids, that multiplication chart, the calculator, we've tried everything. There's stories to learn. Anybody try that? There's like different tutoring strategies. But sometimes maybe like we just have to aim for some multi-sensory ways to learn the 3 times tables. He has like 10 million views. He's taken like a bunch of modern songs and adapted them. See this yet? It's so fun. There's a reason why I have so many
Yes, that 3 times, that 3, 6, and then 9, that 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. We're counting, so astounded, and count the 3s of my sleep. So simple that I think y'all see the world now in 3D. Times 2. Fingers counting, man, you got this in top 3. Sing along, you have to memorize. Times 4. Come find man, now it's easy to tell. Times 5. So these try to get 1, 5, 6, 9, 12.
Such a fun video. I totally want to listen to the whole thing because it's so catchy. But it actually, we have to start looking at alternative ways for some of our kids who are just not getting it. And sometimes we're like, just have them use a calculator. But if they don't know their multiplication facts, they are really stuck. Fractions are really hard, decimals are hard, division's hard, and the calculator is not going to help them all the time. So there's certain things that I do really figure out. We have to figure out new memory strategies for kids. Who's in the high school? Anybody? Oh, wait till you see this ridiculous video. You're going to learn the quadratic formula. Does anybody think they can learn the quadratic formula? You're about to learn it today. Also, 8 million views. We're going to find out why.
If you try to solve a quadratic equation, I promise you it's possible without any frustration. If you take everything, move it to one side, stop by x squared, x and the rest. Alright, now take the coefficients, name them a, b and c, and if you know the right formula, you will see that you get the solution in the very next step. Just sing the song in your head. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, let's start with
It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I just wanted to remind you guys, YouTube is a wealth of information, and there's some incredible stuff on there. The way I judge videos at this point in time is if it's got millions and millions of views, it's probably a good idea. If you like come across like a 10,000 views one, just skip it. But look, there's lots of great resources. And when the other guy was Mr. DiMaio's, D-I-M-A-I-O. This one is the only one that actually, there's quite a few videos that pop up for quadratic formula. It's pretty amazing.
What is this guy's name?
He's a German guy, but he does songs in English. Dor Fuchs. So funny. He's also selling t-shirts with the quadratic if you want to support him. So there are a lot of great resources and websites. Your teachers are constantly giving you guys, like, I can't handle another website. It's just too many. And I, as a parent, my kids bring home like passwords and all that, and I'm like, am I supposed to be logging in? Am I supposed to be seeing this? It's a lot. But you know what's fun about YouTube and those videos is you can, like, my husband recently was teaching, my daughter had a test about explorers. He was supposed to quiz her on the vocabulary on the chapter, but he decided to find a video on explorers, and she actually got 85% on the test. I'm like, good enough for me. So it's very dad friendly. YouTube is very dad friendly. I put the link to this website on, I'm going to come back to the white noise timers in just a minute. This didax.com. If you just do a Google search for virtual manipulatives, they're going to come up. They're a company, most companies give out something free and then they sell you stuff. What they've given is pretty incredible. It's digital manipulatives. During the pandemic, right, we didn't have a whole lot. The first and second grade teachers tried to send home some dice and some squares, but we don't really get that on a regular basis. What's cool about this is it has number lines that are digital. You can decide, if you just need a simple number line to use, which is really cool. It's got, if you're working with a little one who's just doing counting, let's count. We need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really fun. There's some more advanced. There's a numbers board on here. You could also take this number board and you can skip count, or you can change the color. Let me see how this one worked. I have to refresh my memory on this. So let's say your little one has to do skip counting, or has to identify all the 2s. Let's skip count by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, and you can change the color if you need to something different. You can highlight it. So this virtual manipulatives website has different types of spinners, algebra tiles. You can actually solve an equation using algebra tiles, but I'm not that advanced with my math because I'm only on 4th grade math. But this is really cool as a resource too. We got to remember our kids. Paper pencil doesn't promote a lot of brain activity. Right? Think about when they're doing their worksheets and coming home with that work. So maybe if we add in something visually stimulating, something with sounds, we're activating different parts of the brain, learning's going to happen a little bit more easily. So have them do songs, have them do different types of activities. So I gave you that website because I like that one a lot. I'm going to come back to the white noise timer because I'm going to show you something, an extension first. Any questions so far? Are we doing okay?
All good.
Great. I'm going to come back to those white noise timers, the virtual manipulatives. Okay, the Google Suite. So like I said earlier, everybody's pretty good with Google Suite. We all know Google Docs inside out. We all know Google Classroom. Think about Google Classroom as the digital backpack, right? No more lost papers, although you'd be surprised. Kids can lose a paper even in Google Drive. They're kind of funny that way. Does everyone know that you can do built-in voice typing in Google Docs? Nope, I'm going to show you how to do that. In the calendar, we have alarms and notifications for important dates. When I show students calendar, the first thing I do in there is let's schedule your mom's birthday and your birthday, and when's the next school activity. I always start with fun stuff. I don't want to schedule their science quiz right away. So I try to make it fun for them. A lot of the teachers are using Google Drawings. There's great possibilities with math. And I'm going to show you Google Keep, which is a free and little known Google program as well that has some organized note taking. So let's go to Google Docs really quick. So Google Docs, your kids have been using this for a while now, right? Everybody familiar with it? So if you go to the Tools menu, there's a voice typing built in. My favorite food is chocolate, period. I can eat chocolate all day long, period. Google voice typing has probably the most superior voice typing out there. So don't worry about like, oh, remember DragonSpeak? Who remembers DragonSpeak from years ago? That program is now being used by.
No, I'm just saying I remember.
That's like surpassed. Now it's being used by doctors and lawyers and transcribers. It's like not necessary for educational purposes. Google voice typing is pretty incredible. I know I showed you that the Chromebook had built-in voice typing, but the cool thing is they just stuck it here, so it's available. I think in the next year, we're gonna see word prediction that's gonna be built into Google Docs. They're not giving it to us yet, but I think it's coming soon. So you go to the Tools menu, and you just go to voice typing. And whose kids already like grabbing their phone and doing searches on Surrey or on YouTube? They know, they already know. And if your kid is really struggling with handwriting and typing, voice typing might be the way to go for lengthy assignments. And I would just remind them, when they're voice typing, slow down. You're not talking. You are not talking to your friend, period. You are still talking to a robot, period. So watch the indicators, period, and don't forget to insert punctuation, period. You still have to go back and edit, period. Question mark? Exclamation point? And you could actually do even more and more. with
Will
hands.
it, after the period, will it capitalize the first letter, or how do you do
know,
that by voice?
That,
It's not, 'cause
the
I
voice
actually-
typing may or may not do it.
I turned it on and it's actually been, everything you've been saying.
Did it catch it from over there?
Uh-huh.
It's pretty awesome.
But, it's not capitalizing and it.
Yeah.
You said, typing might be the way to go for, and it said lenient, but you said something else, but other than that, it's been pretty spot on.
Google voice typing is pretty superior. So, and what's really neat about it,
Except for the
right?
punctuation. The punctuation's a mess.
They still have to fix the capitalization. They're currently working on it for people with irregular speech patterns, so people with speech impairments.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research in that area right now. So if your kiddo is not speaking clearly and voice typing might not be a traditional candidate for it, we're getting closer and closer all the time. And in working with students, I'm finding that because AI is getting in there. AI, unfortunately, AI is in every big company right now. So Google voice typing is using AI and it's learning some of our kids' voice patterns. And even sometimes I see a kid and I'm like, that's pretty impressive. It understood what you said. So with practice, it will memorize some of your kids.
Can I just add like a minor little blip, just because on Zoom, or I heard someone online at some point, for some of the kids that have some language issues, I got a microphone for Benji, and it was more to like, so he could be heard better
I'm so
while
glad.
on Zoom, but it might help here. I don't know, is that something?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you said it. If they have a microphone that has the ear pods with the microphone, definitely going to capture their voice and it won't capture outside sounds.
Oh, the ear pods? Yeah.
Either wired
'Cause we
microphones
were
with-
just using like a, you know.
with
like
a headset.
A wire, but that
Yeah.
would be tricky to carry around. He's not a big wearer. But like in general, like you can connect some kind of something.
Yes,
And that would
absolutely.
help pick up
And it
more
will be
sound.
better. It will be even better. So your kid might want to use it with a headset,
Yeah,
kind of
he's-
block out any extraneous sounds, especially if they're using it at school, because it might get noisy in some classrooms.
Yeah.
And then they'll pick up other, but yes, don't forget the headphones.
Or even just for helping at home, or just certain settings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if it would help AAC, because we definitely, like, haven't been going out as much to restaurants, but I was in like a louder restaurant and it just, it's just public settings, it's harder to hear.
Yeah, and
So
then-
you're just wondering what.
And more of the headsets now have built-in like noise cancellation. You know, Apple does it, but all the companies always follow. So that would be a really good feature to have. Google, how are we doing on time? Google Keep. Google Keep. It's a little bit more advanced, but I want you guys to know about it since it's just a good, for those of you who have kids in high school, for those of you who have kids getting older, even kids going to college. So Google does have this program called Google Keep that's free, and it's part of their suite of programs. We just don't use it as much because it's one of the less known. But mostly we're using Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Drawings. But Google Keep is a neat program. Let me show you what it is. If you just Google it and you'll find it, just type in Google Keep. What it is altogether is it's a note-taking, it like kind of combines note-taking, reminders, and like organization. I really like it, but it takes some practice. So I have a bunch of notes here, but I've labeled them differently. So maybe I'll just go to the science notes. So here's a couple of science notes. And what's neat is you can grab notes from Google Drive. So if you took some notes, you could also add in photos from pictures, something that you did, or you can actually go right into, if they're taking notes with a friend, check boxes. So there's quite a few things you can do on Google Keep. What I like about it is that I can quickly make a note here, and then it'll connect with my calendar. I can put a reminder and a date. It lets you pick a date and time. If the teacher says, oh, we're having a science quiz tomorrow, this is the topic, here's the date, and then you can have a little remind me notification. The middle schools and high school, I think they assume the kids are like kind of keeping track of everything. And with a paper reminder binder or a digital system, but I know you guys are a bunch of busy people in this room. If I didn't have my digital calendar, I wouldn't know what was going on. Just like appointments and schedule. I think this is a great segue into kids being more digital organization. Do your kids use what do they use for assignments? Is it Google Classroom mostly? Okay, or Schoolology was is it also for a while? And what's great about those two is they integrate with their calendars. But Google Keep is something we're exploring a little bit more for study skills. We just wanted you guys to know about it, but we won't spend too much time on it. Okay? But know that Google has so many, like an endless amount of resources. And I like Google because it's integrated with their Chromebooks. So try not to do too much third-party stuff if you don't have to. You don't have to. Okay. So that's it about Google. I'm always torn whether I should show Google extensions or not because but I kind of want to show you guys what Google extensions are. Let me get back here. So the Google Store, we all know what the Apple Store is. Everyone an Apple phone user, or
Yes.
do we have some Androids? Anybody? That's okay, we still like you, I promise. We always, right, we're always like, oh, that Android is affecting my group chat. You'll hear that for the rest
I
of your
have one
life until they
sister,
fix
oh my
that
God.
problem. So silly. But just like the Android store, there's a Chrome web store where you can add some additional features on the Chrome web store. It basically functions like the Apple store or the Android store. You go in here, you search for something, and you can add it in. So there's a few extensions that are actually available to us because you want to be careful when you're adding. This is for your own personal use. If you ever add something to your phone or to your computer at home, just read their privacy policy, and if it will say this program gathers data. If it's doing that, even if it's the best sounding app in the world, like this app will do your laundry, but it will collect all your personal data, you don't want to download that app, okay? Same with our kids, we're teaching them to be really careful because apps and programs that collect personal data, that's like a quick step to identity fraud and all of that. So we've identified some extensions that don't collect personal data. I'm not going to have you look at that list, it's too detailed. That list is for me. So there's a couple of really neat extensions that I do want to share with you that are really great. Some for kids with dyslexia, some for kids with ADHD, some for kids with learning disabilities, a really cool simple highlighter that I'm going to show you. I'm going to go. The way you get to them is by going to your Chrome web store. So everybody Google the Chrome web store. Just go to Google and then type in Chrome web store. If you have a Chromebook. So go to the Chrome web store. And what's cool about extensions is they work on Chromebooks, they work on any laptop. So they're really great. And the first one we're going to find is a really fun one. It's called anybody have a kid who's got some attention challenges? I think they all do.
Yes.
So when you get there, the time focus timer, and it gives you a little preview of what it does. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It will give you the option to add it to your Chrome if your kid doesn't have it already. And when that happens, you're going to go up here. And anybody able to add it? Anyone want to try it and add it? Then go to your little puzzle up here. That's where all the extensions are. And where's Ty? I think mine is pinned. Here it is. And then we're going to pin it. What pinning it means is just it's going to give me a shortcut to it over here. What's cool about this one, I sometimes work at night. I use it for my own personal needs as well. There's a lot of research that says that people with ADHD really benefit from white noise. What this has done is taken white noise and combined it with a timer. So you can pick your sound. Some people like working in a cafe. Let me show you what those look like. That's too noisy for me. That's kind of nice. You can adjust the volume, obviously. And a kid who has headphones can maybe work on it, to have it in class on their Chromebook, or at home even, right? When they're doing homework, and you're like, okay, you're gonna work, depending on their how long should we have them work for? 20 minutes? 20 minutes is good. And then you get a break. What's cool about it is that built-in break. So I'm going to stop that. There's my new time. At the end of that 20 minutes, they get a break for like whatever time we set. So, you know, we have to give kids break, especially kids who have attention challenges and it's a boring assignment. They're having a hard time with it. But I really love this white noise timer. It's really great for a lot of kids. And I love that you have so many choices too. You can kind of pick the one you want. Now if you decide, like, if your kid decides, I hate this white noise timer, remember you can go to YouTube and find one. Let me see. I found a couple good ones on YouTube. Some endless cycle. you can throw this on in the background, and it can just stay on in the computer while your kid works. But there's quite a few. They're called Pomodoro timers. So Pomodoro and there's different ones you can find. Pomodoro just has to do with the type of timer it is. It's interval. So usually it's like 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Because we have to keep in mind, we got to do that. And there's a lot of research that just says that kind of timer really works well to keep people on task. You have to take your break, even though you think, oh, I can keep going. Take your break. Take your break when you're working. So the Tide Focus Timer, that was one neat extension. The other one I really like that I'm going to show you is, you know, I'm not going to out anybody here, but we all know people that have dyslexia, and it's actually more common than we think, because a lot of people figure out ways to cope with it. What's neat is there's an open dyslexic font on here that you can add to your computer, and what this does then is, I'm going to go to, let me see where I can go to, I'll just go to just any old text heavy page. So when you activate it, oh, this one won't work because I'm gonna go back to Minecraft. Here we go. There it is. So when you activate it, do you see what it did? It changed all the font to open dyslexic font. And it has, there's some research that's coming out of England actually, that this open dyslexic font, with the way it's got the gravity on the bottom letters, helps people who turn letters around. And either they read it as reversals, or their brain processes it differently. But that open dyslexic font, you have a couple of variations, has been helpful to kids. And this is one of those where it's hard to measure, well, does it really work? It's really about comfort. If you have a kid who's got some issues with reading reversals, I would try it out and then show them how to turn it off and on. And they usually figure out, you know what, my reading is better when I have it on. Or they'll tell you, you know what, it's not really helping me. But that's a really great font. And that's becoming more of a universal font available on a lot of websites. So that's available on the Chromebook. And some programs already have it embedded in. Okay? But what I'm hearing, the feedback I'm getting is kids are liking it. Kids that are having reading challenges are really liking it. If you start getting into the letters, you'll see these are nice, clear letters, right? Versus like some of the fonts that we've been using. Anything to give kids a more comfortable experience. Okay. Oh, it even changed my presentation, so I'm going to just turn it off. And you actually could have multiple extensions working at the same time. Let me jump over here. And then, another extension I really like is called Reading Line. Remember the old-fashioned, do you guys, if you're, maybe once upon a time, you guys made a little cardboard one in elementary school, party favors. You know, we're a really text-heavy world right now, right? And we have to be considerate of the fact that sometimes the kids are presented with so much text. So it's just a little window, right? That helps kids who are having trouble tracking. By the end of the day, Chris, I have an extra for you.
Sure, thank you.
And by the end of the day, don't we all have a little mental fatigue? If you have a kid staying up late after sports or after an activity doing homework, it gets hard. So the old-fashioned ones work on just a book. But what's neat is we have, the Chrome Web Store has a reading line that you can activate. And all it does is it creates a digital tracker. So let me activate my digital tracker. And it's very faint. Let me see. I have to put it on a different website. Oh, here we go. I think it's a little dark, but so let's say you have a kid who doesn't have a whole lot of reading challenges, but gets tired, has trouble tracking. you can get and use this. What's neat is it also works on Google Docs. And depending on your screen, it could be lighter or a little bit darker. I also use this, I keep it on at night when I'm looking at papers and assignments, just because my eyes get tired and we make so many mistakes when our eyes are tired. I really love reading line for kids with tracking difficulties.
Can you change the color?
It's super basic, this one. But that's a good question. I'm gonna explore that and see if we can find different like overlays, right?
It's great.
Some of the ones I passed out had different colors on there, so depending on your kid's preference, that would be really
Yeah,
good.
because gray is a little dark, so.
Yeah, I know, it is. All it is like the most basic level of a reading tracker, but I bet there's something that's a little bit more advanced. I'm not gonna go into the other ones too much, because I think I wanna just wrap up with the low-tech tools. So you guys are lucky, because the people watching this video aren't gonna get any party favors. So even though a lot of my work is in, maybe you'll use it for game night, I don't know. And they're different times. Even though a lot of what I do is high tech, in the end, the thing that's gonna work best is like the easiest solution, right? We never wanna go with a solution that's too many steps or too many details, right? And sometimes, isn't this like a great solution? All right, buddy, you've got 10 minutes. When that's finished, it's dinner time, we've got to keep moving. And that's enough, right? You know, I have challenges with constantly being on the phone. Phone timer, screen timer. And sometimes kids need to like touch and feel things, and it kind of jolts their brain a little bit. So even though I have given you some phenomenal digital tools, it's okay to like step back and do something low tech, like a low tech reading tracker. You know, what I've given you links to is a lot of adapted paper. If I don't have to have a kid type all his stuff, this is my favorite math adapted paper for lining up problems really nicely. And those are the resources at the bottom that I've given you. These are all free resources. Teachers Pay Teachers is that you have to, I don't think you even have to have a login to get on there. Ton of free resources, ton of paid resources. I wouldn't worry about the paid one, but people are putting free stuff on there all the time. Low tech stuff is just great. It's funny because I had a kid and they call this a sand timer, and they got me just calling it a sand timer. I'm like, no, it took me a while. This is an hour class. But that's just what they were calling it. Slant boards. I love fidget toys, reward systems. It doesn't have to be all digital. Remember, something easy and accessible is always a really good idea. Let me turn off that reading line. There it is. So I gave you some free low-tech ideas. Who's back to like the YouTube? Anybody, his kid having problems writing their numbers? The kids during the pandemic had a really hard time learning to write, right? They didn't get any kind of formal handwriting instructions. I love these number poems. They worked really well with my kiddos, and I think in the absence of structured handwriting programs, we have to use strategies for handwriting. Some kids can't copy easily, but maybe we turn it into a song, into a poem. Start on top and around you go. That's how you make a 0. My son still uses make a candy cane and then a shoe. That's the way to make a 2. Like, they still remember it, the kids who are really struggling with their handwriting. So I definitely love any different ideas. I gave you the adapted math. It's Montessori schools use this because they don't use technology. And so they have a lot of great low-tech. If you're ever interested in a deep dive, find out what Montessori education does, because they do it all without technology. I love this because there's a black and white version available too. Because kids have trouble lining up. Sometimes they're like, oh, just give them a piece of graph paper. But graph paper is worse than like lined paper. I'd rather use regular lined paper. Oh, I've given you given you a bunch of, scoot that out of the way. Oh. One of the links is, it's an incredible, even though it says pre-K to first grade, I've used this up to sixth grade and middle school. One of the link gives you lots of adapted paper. This was an OT who made this packet for free. It really helps kids sometimes with their letter formation, and there's different sizing from large to really skinny. But the way I operate is I have a bunch of different papers printed out, and I just ask my students, which one do you like? Which one do you think would be a good match? And as a parent, you can kind of do the same thing. I think as parents, we're up against, my teacher's not using this, I'm not allowed to use this. So sometimes what I do is I'll print out a set. When my son is an RSP, a packet for his gen ed teacher, a packet for his RSP teacher, and a packet at home, and now we're all covered. So that he can see the paper everywhere, because that is our challenge, right? We tell them to do something. My teacher told me a different way. We're always up against that conversation. All right. So now, again, I told you I was going to give you a lot of information. I wasn't lying about that. You have my email and my website. If you think of something, or you have a question, or you're like, oh, what was that thing you said about that? Give me some vague email. I'm happy to solve it for you. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions or guide you in another path. I'm curious, is there anything here you might try with your kid? Any favorites, thoughts? Anything even something you...
I'm excited to maybe, I'm not sure it'll work because he has clarity issues, but the speech to text, and he actually is starting to just do a little texting at home a bit, but again, not in the classroom, just exploring some of that. But I know my other daughter uses the Tide, and I can't.
The Tide focus timer?
Tide thing, yeah.
Very cool.
And just this, because I have a teen and we have behavior, and just the song and dances to try to just like you said, just give them another thing besides my reminders or physical reminders. You know what I mean? Just the different senses of trying to do that. Because I'm a noise person and he is too, but it's just sometimes, when you're coming at it from the same way or a similar, vocal approach, it's better to try, having something jump out.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
And a lot of stuff.
Cool. Anything else jump out?
I'm using all of it.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
hi, overachiever! I love it.
I'm actually gonna give that Tide focus time to my husband who has ADHD.
Oh my gosh, I think so, right?
I've never done that Google Keep thing for me. I think because I have a million notes on my phone, and they're not, I now that you can have the folders. I
it's
need
worth
something.
an exploration, right?
Kind of,
Absolutely. What do you guys think? Anything that stands out? Maybe you guys will teach another parent workshop, take it to one of your sites and do a quick PTA meeting. Oh, here's a cool tool. Anything stand out?
I have everything. I would try everything with my daughter and see how she likes it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I installed everything, so we'll just have to
Did
see
anything
what-
stand out to you that you thought was cool?
Well, I installed everything, but it's just a matter to see what,
Okay.
what they'll go for. The Tide focus timer, I'm waiting for it to see what happens when it goes off.
Yeah.
Because mine doesn't like the Pomodoro method, because if they're in the flow, they don't want to be disrupted.
I mean, that's a good point, right? It just pauses. So the music
So it doesn't
turns
make a
off.
noise.
It doesn't make a noise, it just stops the music.
So I was kind of waiting to see, what happened.
So if they are in the flow, they could potentially just finish working and then take their break when they're done their flow.
Right.
So you could also show them how to customize it themselves. After some time, maybe they're a 30-minute worker, or maybe they're a 10-minute worker.
I mean, I
with a
think
5.
it's just that getting started is
Inertia.
challenging. But depending on what it is, sometimes once they're in it, they could go for a while. It's like anything. It depends on interest level. I mean, some of these things they can focus on forever, and you can't get them to stop. And
Yeah, and 2 hours later, you've done one problem. My son loves to be like, oh, look, Mom, it's already done. And he like flips it over when I'm not looking. But it's like the process. He knows I'm going to just come back here and do this. I said, you just added 10 minutes for the timer. You sure you want to flip it again? So it is a challenge. It is a process. In the back over here, anything stand out?
I like the tide. I noticed that there's a cat purring.
Oh,
The
you
cat.
did
Are you
cat
kidding?
No, so I was like, oh,
fun.
and I know she already uses stuff, but I'm not sure.
And people have their different sounds, right, that they like, which is really, really
It's
cool.
really great.
I mean, you guys spread the knowledge with your kids. They can take it to the next level. They can share it with their friends. You can share it with your other parent friends. I mean, hopefully, right, we just keep growing with the accommodations. That's why I put this. Every time I teach teachers, I'm like, look, you don't have to know everything. The kids always take everything to the next level, right? They're learning so much from each other. And then I always advise parents, it's harder as they get older, but have them know at least one kid in each class that we could text or call or something, because we're always missing information, right? And then just a reminder, they're experiencing the world at a much faster rate. Who's got TikTok accounts? I don't have a TikTok.
I don't have
You have a TikTok, so you're experiencing.
Yeah, but I don't really, I mean, I use it just to watch.
They're
videos
in there in
No,
this
my thought was
fast-
the one kid per class, and maybe this is something we can kick back to
Yeah.
the SDC, is, if we're in a co-taught class or have an aide and have communication issues, that may not be viable, but my kid, it's just communication between, is there a solution to that, you know, last minute? And again, with the Google Classroom and all that stuff, you can get directly to the teacher, but it's a social aspect that our kids, some of our kids, just, it's not, and there isn't an easy way to naturally build it. And maybe it's just more because some of his elementary school kids don't sleep in his classes from whatever. But anyway, it's just a thought, that's like a lot of things.
An
It's
area to
something
grow
that-
on, right?
Something that
Kind of next steps.
is tricky for a lot of our families.
Yeah, it is, and it's we're such a person industry that it depends on the teacher, right?
Right, and you don't want to have a kid that's uncomfortable. You know, you don't need that connection between a parent person. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just something that there might be other ways to try to coordinate some of that stuff. And even if it's just a setup or like a little, like have it once or a little bit almost for, you know, just to try to help connect our kids to what some of their peers are doing. It's just another avenue to explore, to
It's
practice.
a good thought. And then just, you know, that embrace the benefits and relevance of technology, even though we all hate aspects of it, right? But it's magical, it's a game changer for kids, right?
Yeah.
Especially for kids with disabilities. So. And that's it for me.
Thank you so
thank you,
much.
thank you for having me today. I love presenting on this information. So I'm happy to hang out if anyone has any questions for me. But we're
And
all
will other parents, for our SEAC groups, will they be able to access this
Yes,
video?
we'll get it from the phenomenal RUTV. This is really bothering me. RUTV folks, and then we're going to post it to the website.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
So
Thank you so
happy to
much.
be here.